This is the Recruiting Students and Employees into an Inclusive Clean Energy Transition, Strategies, Tools, and Opportunities. Thank you again for joining. Deb, you can go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Just to let you know who we are, IREC is a national nonprofit working to remove barriers to the deployment of clean energy for all Americans. We do this through state regulatory reform, local initiatives such as our So Smart program, which helps communities around the world, around the US, accelerate their solar and wind, solar and workforce development processes. Well, wind too. Next slide, please. Today's webinar is brought to you by our partners, National Council for Workforce Education and Bank of America. As stated earlier, I am Janelle Hills, joined today by Dr. Deborah Rowe, Kelly Carey, Angela Sun, and Chris Nichols. All of their titles and organizations are on the slides in front of you. Dr. Cynthia Finley is our Vice President of Workforce and Strategic Innovation here at IREC. Next slide, please. Today's agenda includes a brief update on Alliance activities, IREC's DOL industry intermediary contract, and then we will move into the featured presentation with the panelists that I just named that we have on the call today. So we're really excited about this. Dr. Deborah Rowe will facilitate a question and answer discussion at the end of the presentation. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please, Deb. If you're on this webinar, you are likely to know that good workforce development doesn't happen by accident. We must be very intentional with our work. In order to rapidly scale a diverse and sustainable clean energy workforce, we need to leverage best practices. And that's what the Alliance does, bring everyone out of their silos to share challenges, solutions, resources, and to create strong collaborative partnerships. We work to connect the dots and address clean energy workforce development in a more holistic space. So we hope you are enjoying the webinars that we've had thus far in 2023 and will continue to have in 2024. Next slide, please. We do this by focusing on strategic areas such as training, education, and credentialing, funding and program design, recruitment and support of workers and learners through CBOs, energy justice organizations, and workforce systems, as well as very transparent discussions from employers. So that is focused on recruitment and retention, something that everybody is talking to. Every time we have a meeting or a webinar, that comes up. So it's very important that we have the employers at the table, as well as our trade association partners. Next slide, please. In order to connect the dots, we are publishing a newsletter that comes out the third Monday of every month, right before our webinars are held on the third Thursday of every month. So you can scan this QR code. We'll drop the link in the chat as well a little later, and make sure you join our LinkedIn page. A lot of great conversations are happening there, so you definitely do not want to miss out on those opportunities to be engaged. Next slide, please. So it is October. I can't believe the year is almost up, but it is. We are focusing on recruitment and retention this month. Next month, we will focus on workforce development in emerging green job sectors, where David Hutchison from Trimco will lead that discussion. And then in December, we are on winter break. So we have one more series in 2023, and then we'll take a break and come back full force. Next slide, please, in 2024. And here are some of our topics that we are going to dive into in the new year. I won't read them all to you, but we'll end with the DEIA contractor workshop. And just make note that there will not be a webinar held in April because if you're in this industry, you know that's a busy conference season. So it's going to be hard to squeeze a webinar in April. So no webinar in April. Next slide, please. So I'm going to take a moment and share some information with you about the U.S. Department of Labor Industry Intermediary Contract. This is just a funding acknowledgement and disclaimer that we have to include. You can go to the next slide, please. IREC was awarded the U.S. DOL Industry Intermediary Contract to support the clean energy industry. IREC is the prime contractor with 10 additional partners, including CIA and BPA. And we are tasked with outreach and engagement to raise awareness of registered apprenticeship programs in clean energy, technical support, free technical support to assist and develop new registered apprenticeship programs, and with a focus on recruitment and retaining. And registered apprenticeship programs is definitely a great workforce tool to do just that. We're also distributing financial incentives to support the training of diverse apprentices. We have kind of tagged this or named this project the Apprenticeships in Clean Energy Network, also known as ACE. So if you want free technical support or have questions or events that you're holding, please submit an email to apprenticeships@irecusa.org. And that email address will be on another slide following this one. So this is very lucrative work, and we encourage everyone to reach out to us to gain additional information. You can go to the next slide, please. Registered apprenticeship, they support recruitment and diversity. It's a paid job. It's an earn while you learn model. There are structured OJT, on the job learnings, and supplemental education. Registered apprenticeship programs start at 2,000 hours for on-the-job learning and 144 hours of related technical instruction. They offer diversity, veterans, credentialing. So it's important. As I stated before, it's a great workforce tool. And we'll get on the next, go to the next slide and talk about the benefits of apprentices for employers and workers. As stated, proven workforce development model, and we'll show you the numbers on the next slide. It's a recruitment tool that is very effective. Some employers report saving 20% on recruitment costs for apprentices versus other employees. I thought that was a great point to highlight. And 94 of apprentices remain with employers following the completion of a program. If you're having retention issues, this is a great opportunity for you to deploy a registered apprenticeship program within your organizations. So it will also increase worker productivity. These are just a few of the benefits for registered apprenticeship programs for employees and workers. There are many others, and we're happy to discuss those benefits with you when you reach out to us for technical support. Apprenticeships are growing. Next slide, please, Deb. Apprenticeship programs are growing because they are not just limited to the construction trades. As you can see, apprenticeships have landed in advanced manufacturing, healthcare, hospitality, transportation, information technology, and a number of other industries. 150,000 apprentices were reported in 2012, but look where we are right now in 2021, almost 250,000 apprentices. And that number is going to continue to grow, especially with all of the funding, the IRA bill that has come down the pipe. Look for that number to grow. So if you want free technical assistance, again, you can email us at apprenticeships.irecusa.org, and we are happy to answer any questions and provide you with the technical support you need. I'll now turn the presentation over to, you can go to the next slide, Deb, to Dr. Deborah Rowe. But before I do, please use the question and answer feature to get your questions answered throughout the presentation. We will also be monitoring the chat and have a question and answer session at the end of the call. It's all yours, Deb.
Thank you so much. And Janelle or Dr. Hills, I just want to appreciate all the work that you've been doing at IREC with your team. And this really is a great opportunity that you can help organizations take advantage of the apprenticeship structure. So I know you're going to put those links into the chat as I start to move forward. Here are our speakers for today. And we are going to be talking to you about another government-supported initiative. This one is on recruiting students and employees into an inclusive clean energy transition. And so we're going to be including today strategies for you, tools that you can use, and opportunities. So the true story is that I noticed that there were a lot of great training programs, but they didn't have enough recruits that were sitting in their classrooms and the education and training opportunities. And there were a lot of companies that were looking for employees and couldn't find them. And so I talked to some people at the federal government and said, you know, we really need help with recruitment. It would be great if we could have some kind of a project that creates a national recruitment campaign where we could test out different messages and then develop materials and share them out with everybody so everybody can use them. They listened and then chose to support this. So I'm really excited to be able to share it with you today. The purpose of it is to increase enrollment in educational and training pathways. It's specifically to lead to careers in residential energy efficiency, and that includes home performance and HVAC, but specifically in HVAC, the importance of heat pumps in heating, cooling, and water heating applications. Now, we need to electrify our buildings. We all know that in order to meet the science-based targets to take our last shot at stabilizing climate. But for many reasons, it makes sense to electrify our buildings, put renewable energies on the grid, and that this is in some ways the low-hanging fruit of the clean energy transition, and we want to make sure it's an inclusive one. But in order to actualize that low-hanging fruit, we have to boost the number of workers entering the energy efficiency and heat pump sectors. And we also want to enhance the diversity of individuals pursuing education and careers in energy efficiency.
What's the best way to take care?
So the main collaborators on this campaign are BPI, the Building Performance Institute, and my organization, the U.S. Partnership for Education for Sustainable Development. You'll hear a little bit about each of them, and we will start with BPI. So Kelly, go ahead.
Hi, thanks very much. BPI is the premier certification and standard setting organization for home performance professionals in the United States. I'm going to talk a little bit about what all those words mean because sometimes there's a little confusion. The standards actually come first. Our standards are developed by a committee of industry experts from around the country, and they work over months, sometimes years, to develop very clear definitions of what an energy audit is, how to do one, the technical standards for anything to do with this industry. And then when those technical standards are done, the certifications are developed from those. And the certification is a credential issued by some sort of trusted body such as BPI that shows that you have the knowledge, skills, and abilities to do a particular job. BPI's standards are designed to be rigorous, and they are very comprehensive. So when we talk about certifying a professional, they have to undergo examinations, usually either a field or written exam or both, to show that they are competent to do that work. And that is what we do.
Great. Thank you, Kelly. So BPI houses the grant that was given for this national recruitment campaign. This is not about recruiting into BPI related programs necessarily. It's just one of the resources, and of course, a very well-known one that's there. And then we're working with BPI in the implementation of this campaign. And who's we? The U.S. partnership. The partnership consists of hundreds of individuals, organizations, institutions in the U.S., all dedicated to education, and I would also say actions for sustainable development. We are a convener, catalyst, and communicator. We work across all sectors of society. If you look at uspartnership.org, that's our website, you'll see that we have initiatives with 2,500 mayors, many of them in the global south. We also have initiatives with higher ed networks for sustainability across the world. We have initiatives with publishers. We have multiple initiatives that we've done with the federal government and with the youth, who are holding us all accountable for what kind of a future we're creating for them. So we were very excited coming out of my background of teaching heating and cooling people for 42 years at a community college, and then also working with community-based organizations and helping to run the Detroit Green Skills Alliance, really saw the need for a national recruitment campaign. And so now we've got support for you to have one. And so we're going to be bringing you gifts, but we want your input because that way it'll be a much better designed campaign. So, and somebody asked in the chat whether that campaign is just for the cold climate heat pumps, the air-to-air, if it's also the geothermal. And these recruitment materials can be used by any of you. So it doesn't have to be limited to that. You could use these recruitment materials to recruit for solar too, for geothermal, anything that's about the clean energy transition, right? They aren't designed to be used for the continuation of polluting fuels that are causing an instability in our climate. I will say that. Okay. So now we're going to do an overview of the recruitment campaign, and I'll turn it back over to Kelly to describe that.
Thanks so much. This is a 3-phase recruitment campaign, and we are currently in phase 1, quickly approaching the end because October is really running away. What we're doing right now is we are recruiting pilot sites and advisory board and outreach engagement partners. There are 3 pilot sites. We currently have a site open for community-based organizations. We're going to be piloting these materials at technical high schools, community colleges, and community-based organizations who either recruit staff to do this work or they recruit into training programs to train the workforce to do the staff. And in this initial period, once those advisory or the pilot sites are recruited, they're going to be looking at our draft messaging with us before we go ahead and develop the first round of materials. Phase 2 starts really soon and continues through February because this is a fairly short project. Those materials are going to go into use at the pilot sites. They're going to be using them in their own recruiting. And they're also going to just be doing like conversations with their students in addition to actually deploying them and gathering feedback because we want to continuously improve. And those pilot sites are going to be gathering data on how students and recruits are reacting to those messages. And we'll go through another round of refinement if needed. Now, phase 3 in May is a great time to begin recruiting for the following fall. So we're going to be spreading those materials. And by materials, I'm talking about social media posts, web banners, posters, which you can hang in your sites, potentially short videos, scripts to develop your own videos. Those are the things that we're going to be sharing out. Advisory groups will also be looking at them, consulting with their own students and recruits. And then in May, we will be finishing those materials, doing a second iteration, gathering metrics from the campaign team. So by summer, we're going to have those ready for people like you to be using to recruit for the following summer. And one thing I should clarify is that all of these materials will be co-branded. So we're going to be leaving space for you to put in your logo, your QR code, your website, so that when you use them, you're pointing them to your own programs. And we are going to make sure that there is training available so that let's say you don't at this moment have capacity to comfortably co-brand, we're going to help you to do that.
So before we go to the next slide, I just wanted to mention that at this point, I think we've identified our 3 pilot sites, but we're looking for others as well. So if you would be interested in being a pilot site, that means that you would use these materials in the fall. You give us feedback by February. Let us know. We'll give you the contact information in a little bit. And then also we need people on our advisory board to give us input. And that's a much lighter role. It's more like meetings where you're going to give us your insights, your intuitions, whatever metrics you've already collected. And then the outreach engagement partners will be using the refined messaging that gets built over the pilot site's learnings. And so in March, definitely in April, the national engagement partners, and that's very much people like you on this call, right? We'll be able to use these materials, and we're hoping that it'll be local organizations, but very much the national ones too, so that it'll have high impact, so that the goal here is that we'll have more people that are educated, that just choose to come into this clean energy field, and then more educated people available as employees. So this is all, we're doing this for all of you. It will be available to all of you. And we're very excited to be able to say that. So the pilot sites each get around $7,200. The advisory board splits that amount amongst everybody who's there. And then the outreach engagement partners have a larger amount of money, but still quite small, around 20 grand. And they're the ones who are, and it gets split amongst all of them, and depending on the work that they do. But that's where we want to ramp this up. We want to scale it up nationally so that we get the recruitment that we need in this country. And then, of course, everybody can use the materials for free. So please let us know if you're interested in being a pilot site, which means you get involved right away. On the advisory board, which means you get involved right away, but it's less engagement. It's just a few advisory board meetings. Or if you want to be an outreach engagement partner, that's really what we're looking for today, is that group that's going to take the refined messages and use them throughout their organization. Okay, Kelly, you can describe what success looks like at the end. Hey, Kelly, are you there? Is your sound working?
Thanks.
Okay.
At the end, we'll have a deep understanding of those outreach messages, graphics, and channels, what resonates with our target populations. And we've created a playbook and a toolkit, most essentially a set of tools and instructions on how to use them so that organizations nationally can use these materials effectively. Also, right now in the chat are the emails that you can email us and say, yes, we would like to be a backup pilot site, or we would like to be an engagement partner, or we would like to be on the advisory committee. So if you would take those emails down, we prefer if you email all 3 of us, but definitely email Kelly and preferably all 3 of us to let us know, okay? Also, we're going to create a playbook that's available to all of you that you can use with these messaging materials and instructions. So we hope that we're servicing you well with this project. We think we are. But now we want to hear from you today so that we can make it as good as possible. So we have some poll questions that we put together, and we're going to have you answer them one at a time. So let's go ahead and start with the first one. And Michelle, if you want to pull up the first poll, we're asking you, what do your current recruits, whether these are employees, if you're an employer, or whether these are students, if you're an education organization, what did they say are the reasons they went into the field? So if you could just, whatever comes to mind is what you've heard. We want to see what they're saying. Because, of course, that's what they remembered, right? That's what stuck with them as to why they went into the field. So that would be good messaging for recruitment, too. And just as a side note, if you're looking at this poll and going, oh my goodness, I could write a book, go ahead and write us a book. Our email contact will be posted at the end, or it's already in the chat. Write us an email and say everything that you need to say, if this is not enough space for you, or if you need to think about it.
But please give us your highlights right now in the poll. Okay, give us your top 2, 3, 4. And if you are going to write us, you can write us messy. It doesn't have to be neat. But we are meeting tomorrow morning to pretty much finalize the messaging that we're going to share with the graphics people. They're going to create these messages, at least for the pilots. So if you don't want to miss the pilot run, if you could give us this feedback now, that would be great. I see we've got 23 answers already, but we've got 79 people on this webinar. So let's see if we can get a few more before I close the poll. And you can also put things in the chat if it's more comfortable for you. We're going to harvest these things. Don't worry, we won't attribute it to any one individual. And please don't guess, right? We really want to hear what you have learned. Okay, how about if I give it about another 20 seconds? We're up to 30, which is great. Just looking at the clock. You know what? Let me give it another minute, because it's really important that we get your feedback, your input into this. In some ways, this is the most important question, right? Okay. Seems to have slowed down. So I think why don't we end the poll, take a look at it, and if we missed you, then you can go ahead and put it into the chat, okay? So let's share the results. Okay, so I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing the results on here. Is it when you don't answer the question that you don't see the results? Can I ask the rest of you in the audience, are you seeing the results? Can somebody unmute themselves and say so? Or can you put it into the chat? Nope, they are not seeing the results, Michelle. Is it possible to go back and share it again?
How about now?
No, it just says 100% answered.
Okay.
You may have to look at the settings, right? Can you see the results? Hold on a second. Let's see what the chat's saying. They're only seeing their own answer.
Michelle, I am seeing a share results button at the bottom. Are you?
Yeah, but when she shares it, she's not getting.
When I share it, they're only seeing their responses. I'm not uncertain how to fix that right now.
So what I do want to do is check to see that the answers are there, so that we will be able to look at them after the meeting. Michelle, can you see if that's the case? And this is a copy of what we did for the run through yesterday, correct?
Yes, I can see them. I can download them into an Excel spreadsheet, and I am seeing all the responses. I'm uncertain why they're not showing.
Okay, well, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to see them today, but am I safe to say that we'll harvest them and share it out with them afterwards? Michelle, maybe not right away, but that we will create a version where they can see the results of the polls.
Yeah, I think we can do that in the follow-up email. Yep, I'll work with Janelle and Cindy to make sure that happens.
Okay, so now let's go to the second poll. And the second poll is about communication channels. So we're very interested in what kinds of communications channels work best for you. I gave the example of a YouTube channel, But, you know, maybe it's not a YouTube or an Instagram or a TikTok or any of those. Maybe it's the local radio station. Maybe it's the local television station. We used to be on the 6 o'clock news a lot when I was starting my program. We'd have a hill lined up with solar collectors. We'd call and say, I have a great visual for you. And that would get the TV cameras to come out. Maybe it's the counselors in high school. Maybe it's the workforce development boards. So let us know what communication channels have worked best for you to get out your recruiting messages that resulted in people coming into the field, people coming into the education training programs, or as employees. We've got 9 answers so far. Once again, you're the experts here. And please don't guess. I really want those who have experienced it to share what they know. Thank you for taking the time to do this. And if you're typing on your phone, you may have to click on done first and then on submit to get it to work. And while people are still thinking about that one, I'm going to go ahead and remind you what the next one is that comes up. You can start thinking about what are the recruitment messages that you found that worked the best. Was it a certain phrase? Was it a certain concept? Whatever it is, if you would share that. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and end this poll on communication channels. Try it again. See if when you share the results, we can actually see it. Nope, it's only sharing our own answers again. So there is a glitch in the settings, but we will get those answers to you. And thank you for helping us with our final design that we're going to be doing tomorrow for the pilots. So now let's go to poll number 3. What recruitment messages have worked the best for you? So there's one example. Get a great career. What have you used that's worked? And once again, if you haven't done recruitment or your recruitment hasn't worked well, then that's okay. You don't need to answer.
I just want to add, if you're unsure what messages work for you, a great way to think of it is when someone has completed your program or onboarding in your company and is successfully working in the field, what do they say they like about their job? Some of them might say, I like the independence, I like moving around. Some of them might say, I like being able to start my own business. The thing that people that really makes them want to do this job is one way to consider what messages might resonate.
I know many of you answered number 1, which is great. We'll be looking at those. It feeds into this. So we really appreciate harvesting the wisdom. We're crowdsourcing now, right? We're crowdsourcing to make the clean energy transition more successful. That's really one of the goals of this whole alliance. So I'm going to give you, another like 40 seconds, okay? And I'm going to take a look at the questions and answers that are coming up while you do that. So somebody asked about weatherization. Yeah, of course. If we're looking at energy efficiency, weatherization is key. And so, yes, you'll be able to use this recruiting information for recruiting into weatherization programs as well. Tracy asked about recruitment resources. And when will they be available? So to the pilots, within the next month. To the national engagement partners, March or April, anyway, May at the latest. And to everybody else, look, if we get a big hit and we know that this is a successful piece, we'll let you know as our webinars go along with the Alliance. But we will make sure that you all have access to it when we also share it with the national engagement partners. When we get their feedback, there will be another refinement, and then we'll let you know about those as well. Okay? So hopefully that answers those. And I saw also from Tracy a request for posters. Yes, we will not only have posters, but posters that that you can co-brand, as we mentioned. Okay. All right. And if you have good posters, if you've got good examples, please, please, please send them to us, like today, if you can, since we have to meet tomorrow morning, since we're on such a tight timeline with this. All right, let's end this third poll. And you can click on share just so people can see what they answered, but they're not going to see everybody else's.
Deb, can you click the share results? I'm wondering if it's because you're sharing your screen.
Yeah, I just clicked the share results and it didn't show anything, right? It just showed my answer again because I'm on the phone too.
That's correct. Okay, thank you.
Sure. All right, so now let's turn off the polls for a second. And I'm going to go to the next slide. So we have already come up with what we think are key messages that are going to underpin this campaign, unless you've told us something really different just now and you're pulling answers. So we thought that the lead messages would be, do you want a good job with good pay? Do you want employers to want you? And then right along with that are these other key messages of build a future for yourself. You don't have to sit behind a desk. You can use your hands. Be the energy hero for your family and your neighbors. Help them reduce their bills, have healthier homes, and have more comfort. And many of us have used that in the business applications. We will support you, and that's where if you're co-branding, you can add in if you've got an earn while you learn, or if you've got a tuition assistance available, or whatever wraparound services you may have, you could put all of those in there. So those are kinds of the key messages that we're looking at. But we wanted your input once again. And we realized it's quite different in urban regions. So Detroit's a different market than like the very rural areas of Michigan where I live, right? And had to do work in both of those. So which of the following messages have helped you recruit students into your programs when you were recruiting in urban regions? And if you want to pull up poll question number 4, this is a multiple choice question. And you can answer as many as apply to you. So please click on the ones that have worked for you. If you're on the phone, you may have to kind of use a finger to scroll up so you get all of the answers. Well, we are getting the results on these, and that's great. You can all see that, right? I've got to tell you, this is better than eating chocolate, and I love chocolate, to be able to see these answers from you. So a lot of we will support you while you're training. A lot of build a future for yourself. And a lot of want a good job with good pay. Mm-hmm. And then energy hero, and you don't have to sit behind a desk, come in pretty strong too. Okay, let me give you another 15 seconds. Please fill them in. I really appreciate the 35 of you who have answered. And please don't hesitate to put more things into the chat if we're not capturing this in a way that makes sense to you.
Another thing we'd love for you to pop in the chat is if you've ever had a negative reaction to any of these. If you've ever tried a message similar to one of these and been like, oh, actually, we had negative feedback about that, pop it in the chat so we know.
Okay. All right, I think it's slowed down enough. Let's go ahead and end this poll. Now, the next poll question is actually the same thing, but it's for rural areas. Do you want me to click on stop sharing, or do you want to, Michelle? All right, so poll number 5. Same question, but now in the rural areas. Which of these have been the best? And just so you know, with what Kelly said, there is a question coming up about what did not work. So you will be able to answer that in the poll in a minute. So this is what works in the rural areas. Don't sit behind a desk, good job with good pay, build a future for yourself, and we'll support you. A little less on being an energy hero. That's kind of interesting. Those are interesting. Although those are catching up now. Never mind. I don't want to skew the results. Don't listen to what I just said. Now we have less who participated, but that may be because less of you are working in a rural area. And we appreciate that. We don't want guesses on this. We want real experience. Should I give you about another 15 seconds? Does that work? And once again, multiple choice, so you can hit on all of those that seem to be effective. Now, if as you were filling this in, you're thinking about it, something pops up and you go, ooh, I should have said. That's a good phrase. Please put it in the chat. Please, please, please. Yep, that's fine. All right. So now let's end this poll. And thank you so very much. And I'm going to go on to the next slide. So we have 2 poll questions left. One is, what communication channels did you try that did not work well? Like radio was awful for us, like boosting on Facebook was a waste of money, like dealing with my own counselors on my own organization weren't helpful. Nothing against academic counselors here, but just whatever your experience was, which communication channels did not work? We tried posters, we got nothing out of it. Can you open up the poll for number 6? And please fill in what didn't work in terms of communication channels. That means that none of you had any failures. Oh, one of you? Okay, good. Because failures is what you, I had a student who said, my grandma said you have to fail at least once a day or you'll never learn anything. I was like that. Yeah, please share with us the things you tried, because we don't want people wasting money, time, effort, particularly at this crucial time when we have to scale up the work we're doing. You know, we're considered the low-hanging fruit for climate solutions. You know that, don't you? Electrifying our buildings and putting renewables on the grid, making our buildings more energy efficient. Yeah. Who knew that it would be on our shoulders to meet the science-based targets for our last shot at stabilizing climate between now and 2030? But it is. Okay. How about another 15 seconds? And then we will get to your questions. You can add in more questions. We're going to have lots of time for questions. Today's one of those days where I think we will use the full time for the meeting. All right, let's close this poll. And you don't even have to push share because it just says what people answered. So let's go straight to poll number 7. What recruitment messages did you try? The actual message that did not work well. So for instance, we really wanted to put an emphasis on be an energy hero. And I have a question for you, right? So I'm from Detroit, born in Detroit, raised in Detroit. We're going to help run the Detroit Green Skills Alliance. We're trying to decide whether to use, for example, energy hero for your friends and family. We know we want to use family. Energy hero for your family and neighbors, energy hero for your family and community. You know, and sometimes it's your neighbors that are not your people that you have connected with. They might even be somewhat threatening to you. So we're just trying to figure out what kind of phrases we should use. So if you could give us any sense of that, either in the chat or in here, what recruitment messages did not work. And also, should we even use carbon pollution or air pollution or just pollution? Have you learned something about the preference of that? So once again, you can do it on the poll. Only 2 of you have answered so far what you tried that did not work. And also in the chat, if you want to give us more details, or you can email us, but just please email us today so we can try and build it into the pilots tomorrow. Okay, I'll give it another 15 seconds on this one. And this is our last poll. And then we have gifts for you that I think will help you with all of your recruitment efforts while we do this national campaign. Somebody asked about the advisory committee. We're looking at having meetings maybe once a month, once every 2 months. We may do some calls in between to you. This is just advisors who've done a lot of work in the field. Maybe they have a lot of insights, or their organization has a lot of insights that they can harvest and share. So that's what we'll be using the advisory committee for, the kind of input like we got today, but to more nuanced levels. All right. Thank you for this. Let's go ahead and end that poll. And we will harvest the results. So moving forward, and thank you, Michelle. I'm going to hand it over now to Angela. She's a fellow at our U.S. partnership. We're just delighted to have her. And she's going to tell you about gifts and materials that we have to share with you on recruitment, starting with this toolkit from the National Council for Workforce Education. Angela?
Great. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for a great discussion and your feedback and your gift of feedback. Like, we can't wait to go back to the materials after this webinar to reflect your thoughts and your experiences in our material. But let us share some gifts and materials that we know exist today with you all. So, and by the way, all the links that are hyperlinked in here, I will be dropping them in the chat right after I stop speaking. So you will have the links to all of them. So the first one that we wanted to share is this toolkit that the National Council for Workforce Education has created. And it specifically includes strategies to recruit more BIPOC community members and women into the green skilled trades. So it's a big wealth of knowledge, case studies on what has worked, and best practices for tactics you can consider. So really recommend you check it out after this webinar. Next slide, please. Another resource we wanted to point out to you is coming out of New York's NYSERDA group. So they have launched this initiative called Road Trip Nation, which aims to help the visitors of the website explore local career opportunities in clean energy. And the really cool part of what they're doing in this initiative is actually demystifying some of these career fields and how some people actually got into where they are. So what they highlight and include are things like videos that highlight, hey, how did you become a technician of X, Y, and Z? Or how did you become a CEO of this company in the clean energy space? They also contain highlights in different people's profiles and offer self-discovery courses. So if you are looking for this kind of material, we really recommend you check it out. Next slide, please. We also wanted to highlight a public-private partnership from abroad called OHKW. What's cool about this one is that they were able to form an association of startups, manufacturers, energy providers, and training providers to agree on what the modular and standardized pathway to become a heat pump installer or solar installer looks like. So if someone is interested and they wanted to join this pathway at some point, it's a pretty straightforward pathway for people who want to enter these trades. So we thought this was a good example to bring in from abroad. So we recommend you check it out as well. Next slide, please. And in this link at the Center for Energy Workforce Development, there is another wealth of knowledge and resources there. But one thing we actually wanted to highlight here is a strategy, which is really getting in touch with the community that you are targeting your advertising or marketing campaign to, and find them where they're already hanging out. So for example, some groups before have found success in visiting barbershops in the community where people are already hanging out and advertising their campaigns and kind of promoting their things there. And although that might be counterintuitive, you are actually going and meeting people where they are already hanging out, and there's a sense of community trust and familiarity that you can really tap into and connect with the community that way. So we wanted to share this as an example to kind of encourage more organic ways to get in touch with the community. And I'll hand it back to Deborah for the next slide.
Thanks. And yeah, and even finding that just a trusted person in the community as your spokesperson can really make a difference. Okay, so this is a slide on strategies. Of course, to work with local organizations who already work with your target populations, like workforce boards, Department of Corrections, etc. Those are just examples. But also, what are the ways that you can get free publicity? Some of you have heard this before, but my first day at Oakland Community College, after owning a company, retail and wholesale in this, and then going to OCC and say you need a program, the first thing my dean said to me is, I don't think you can do this because you're a girl, but I'll let you try. And he also said to me, if you can keep your classes full for 4 years, then we'll give you tenure. So, of course, I was very committed to get tenure, not only for my personal life, but also because of what it would do for the region to have a program that was stable. So some of these things I've really learned because I did it. The first one is something that I learned actually in the last 6 months. And that is that you reach out to social media influencers and you ask for pro bono posts. We have actually are doing this out of our youth sector of our U.S. partnership. And we have now gotten commitments from influencers. Oftentimes they ask for money to post things, but because this is around climate solutions and this is around cleaner environment, they're doing it pro bono. And in the last 3 weeks that we've been running this last campaign, or really our first campaign, we've gotten commitments from influencers to post our materials that have over 3 million followers. So this is a big strategy for you to consider. We can give you more information on it if you want. The second thing is go to the news desk. So I told you about the TV station I used to call on. My students used to build solar collectors out of recycled materials, solar thermal collectors. And I would say I have a great visual for you. But I would also call the largest radio station in Detroit. I'd say, can I have the news desk? If you don't ask for the news desk, you won't get on. And I'd say, I have a news story for you. You got to say that too. And then I would say, look, I bet your listeners could really appreciate hearing how to reduce their bills, low cost, no cost ways to reduce their bills. Like if the world just knew about caulking and weather stripping, right? But also to mention that you're having an open house where people can come and explore careers and find out more ways to save money on their bills. So the radio station liked me so much that they turned me into the energy doctor. I was on regularly. I would schedule it when I would have my open houses. That's how I recruited for the next semester. And that is how I got tenure, but also created a more stable, successful program that ran for 42 years, right? Then I already talked about the TV station. And of course, always leave people your contact information when you're talking so that they can reach out to you. So have a good way for them to reach out to you, whatever it is, however you want them to do it. So those are just some strategies. We'll create more. Please, we want to collect more too. So will you please share them with us so that we can put them into our strategy section of our playbook and get them back out to you. Okay, so get in touch. If you are interested in being an advisory board member, being an outreach engagement partner, or being a backup for one of our pilot sites in case one of them falls through and you are either a technical high school, community college, or a community-based organization, that's what the pilots are. Our outreach engagement partners can be a much wider group as well as the advisory board. Then please email us. And once again, that's our set of emails going into the chat right now, right, Angela? And then we also welcome your input on more on the messaging. Graphics too. Please share graphics with us if you have it. We haven't spent a lot of time today on what graphics are most successful. All right, so now, and thank you for all of that, I'm going to turn it over to Chris. And Chris is the executive director of Renewables Forward. Chris Nichols, we're just delighted to have her with us today, straight off of a plane. And I think she's in the airport. But she's got a lot of nuanced insights for recruitment campaigns for her to share with us that has implications for the other parts as well of making this all work. So over to you, Chris.
Thank you so much, Deb. And I do want to thank everyone in the group for inviting me to join you today. I'm not bringing you specifics on the campaign. You've already heard great stuff from Deb and Angela and Carrie and our partners at IREC, Janelle, Michelle, Zach, about that. What I'd like to share with folks on the call is general demographics. And you may already know this, so forgive me if you already do, but general demographics on the upcoming generations and what Generation Z and Generation Alpha are looking at when they are thinking of, what do I want to do for my career? How do I want to earn a living? What do I want from my first job? What do I want from a training program? And the general sense of demographics in the United States of the younger generations. So I'm just going to run through that and reflect for all of us that things have changed a lot. If you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, and you are now in the position of managing or recruiting or training young people, you know this from your own contact with young people, that their expectations, their desires, their world view coming into their adulthood and into positions of self-autonomy are different than perhaps mine were, yours were at that same age, whenever that was. A lot of this is shaped by COVID and the pandemic and experiences of our global suffering, I would say, and separation during the pandemic. And coupled with that, the new world of social media, instant contact, different ways of communicating that didn't exist back way back in the day, and that continue to evolve, including AI, TikTok, Instagram, things that bring us into faster and more dynamic communication, and not necessarily trusted communication, but that speed the world up. So let's go through it. What does each generation want when it's looking for training and when it's looking for a job, the next job movement? And it very much changes by your generational profile. So all workers these days want flexibility. We had a taste of it during COVID, where if you were able to, you worked from home, you worked remotely, and people generally like the ability to control their schedules and control their output and control their environment that a remote position allows you to execute. And in fact, young people really like it. And they're like, man, if I'm told, you can see 71% of 18 to 24-year-olds responded in a recent poll from Business Insider. If they told me I had to show up for work full time, if I had to go somewhere and be physically at an office or workplace full time, I'd quit, because I'll just go find another job that gives me the flexibility I want. So that's full-time work. You might be able to get people 1, 2, maybe 3 days a week, but think about that both for training and for the career opportunity you're offering young people coming into this. And other things are also worth noting. There's, besides the remote work, people are not working just for a paycheck, or at least young people are not. They really want to know what the company, what the organization offers them in terms of doing good for the world. What is the purpose and the mission of the organization? There's a sense of altruism and mission-driven work that younger generations really want. You know, older generations, millennials, definitely want job security. All people want to know that they're being paid fairly. And that definition has changed over time. So fair pay, job security is much more important to millennials, the tail end of the boomers, than it is to Gen Z and Gen Alpha. There is a trend of older workers working past retirement age, either because they can, they're in good health and they have a remote job and they enjoy the stimulation and the social contact, or because they have to. Inflation, their pay hasn't kept up and they really need to keep working. Now that's, if you're able to and you love it and it's good for you and you're an older person, you want to work past 67, that's an advantage for you. But it also impacts the generations below you that would like to move into the manager, director, V-suite and C-suite, and are prepared, but because nobody's retiring, they can't. Yeah, and so there's generational shifts that way. I'm not as afraid of AI as moving people out of jobs. So, but it depends on what your job is. Let's move on. Let's go to the next slide. So I've spoken to this a little bit. You can feel this, and I want people to put in the chat, if you've noticed something striking, yourself, you're an educator or you're in a position to hire people and they're younger people, what have you noticed, and put it in the chat, about when young people come in and are looking for that job or looking for that training? What do they say to you is the most important thing they're looking for? I'll give you a minute to respond in the chat, or you can take yourself off mute and respond if you want.
I don't know if they can.
I don't know if I can see it.
Mute.
Oh,
I
okay.
think they can raise their hands.
You can raise hands, or you could just type it in the chat. Type it in the chat. That's probably the easiest. I'm not going to give a lot of time to this slide. Definitely more than minimum wage, good pay, an obvious and transparent career pathway. Hey, I'm here. What will my job be like in 2 years? Where can I go in 5 years with this? Family. Thank you, Anicia. Anicia says in the chat that majority of their students are only there for family values and to impress their family. High pay came second to family. That is very true in certain populations, especially. Working to rule instead of quiet quitting. Not going the four-year college debt rut. Very good. Yes. Oh, James Lane says, surprised by the attachment to the title of your job. This is why I say we might need new names for apprentices, because I don't know if the word apprentice has positive or negative connotations anymore. Fellows are always good. Rotationals are always good. Yeah. Yes, I see a comment in the chat about the stigma that may still be attached, Alex. Stigma that might still be attached around a quote blue collar or working class job. I am only quote working class, even though you could be quote only working class, making a 6-figure salary and no college debt. Can you take pride in that? I think that's on us and on our discipline to change how the optics around skilled trades.
I like the green collar piece. In
Yep.
Detroit for a while, we used also green ambassadors.
Yes.
Energy
Green ambassadors, heroes, green heroes. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. I want to continue holding this thought when we're all strategizing how to get people. Yeah, not about pay. Not all these generations want the same thing. Let's move on. Okay, this was a quick study that was done recently. Again, Business Insider and also a number of Forbes and a number of Fortune magazine did generational expectations. And I think you might have noticed this in your own work in the field. Most people want fair pay and job security. Job security is much more important as you age, as you acquire, say, a mortgage and possibly a family, or you have family support responsibilities. Mission is very important. Gen Z, remember, Gen Z is roughly the folks who are late 20s, right? Mid 20s to early 30s right now. They want work-life balance. It's very important for them to work their work and leave and have respect and validity to their personal assigned life choices. They want a values-aligned work. Mission of the company is they want the company to walk the walk. They definitely want care for themselves, and if they have a family, mental health and wellness programs, bonding, very important, and the making a difference. I think that's where this industry, weatherization, green collar jobs, solar jobs, wind jobs, we have a huge advantage. We are literally saving in all of these disciplines and industries, and that's true. Now, millennials, slightly older, millennials are in that age group that's, say, 36 to about 47, 48. They also want a flexible work environment. Work-life balance, not as much, but definitely the remote work appeals to them. They want health and wellness care, definitely health insurance, dental care, retirement, you bet. Inclusive benefits. If they're a single person, they don't just want to see parental leave. They work for you. It's like, okay, well, I don't have kids. Where are my benefits? And I want equal benefits, fair. They also want to give back. They want to know that they are leaving their job and their situation better than when they came in, and that they have a personal stake in that. They want to feel their own effort being recognized in making what they do impactful on the planet. Hit the next button. Okay. People talk about the Great Recession or where people are, or the Great Resignation, where everybody's quitting. It's not so much everybody's quitting. Everybody's just moving. And you can see Generation Z, that's that younger crowd, they're increasing their job movement by 80%. They're not just quitting, they're leaving for something they think is better. Millennials, that slightly older group, is also moving around at about 50% higher than they used to. This is post-COVID, post-pandemic. Next slide. Okay, so when I said millennials into and also Gen Z wants good work and mission work, what do they define that? What are we giving them that they would define as good work? Well, you can read it, so I'm not going to read the slide to you, but this again is a combination of recent 2021, 2022 surveys of employees and then the HR managers on what these companies are doing. when you have flexible work, is it flexible for everybody? Only 56% of companies offer flexible work to everybody in the company. That's probably because of the nature of the work. This is global. This is not just clean energy, by the way. Well-being, you want 80% of companies deliver minimum health care to everybody in all their locations, but total well-being is not as prevalent. So 50%. So you may have catastrophic care or, hospitalization coverage, but you don't have, say, mental health coverage or prescription care or dental care or vision care or anything beyond your hospitalization. The last box, 51%, just a little over half of companies provide access. Now, this is within their companies to their current employees to take continued training that results in a certification or clear upskilling. But 44% of those companies are not sure which skills can be developed versus just brought in with a new hire or a contractor. So this speaks to maybe lip service on the training, or training that's not credentialed, or training that doesn't provide worker mobility. So these slides are going to go to everybody. You can keep these, but keep this in mind. If you are yourself one of these demographic groups, you're looking at other jobs. What are you interested in? Well, you're part of a herd. You're part of your tribe. How can we, taking this, make our training programs, our jobs, our workplaces fulfilling, meaningful, fair, to retain all those folks we worked so hard to train and hire, because they're not going to stay unless we meet their desire, that generational desire for fair pay and mission alignment. So I just want to go to the next slide, if you would, please. So I'm just going to ask you some quick questions, and again, in the chat, or raise your hand if you want. And I just want to flip this to diversity, because one of the things especially Gen Z wants, and certainly Gen Alpha expects, is a diverse workplace. And I don't just mean gender and racial. I mean, they want diversity from backgrounds. They want differently abled folks. They want to see diversity at every stage of the business. And hey, I'm seeing the comments, and these are fantastic. Trauma-informed employee management, excellent. Increased BIPOC workers, excellent. I want to ask everybody, how many of you in your companies or in your training programs have a formal policy or some clear objective with a metric for hiring or recruiting diverse candidates for open positions? You can just put it in the chat. Do you have any kind of policy or objective when we have an open position, or we want to fill these seats? This is the kind of diversity we're looking for. And if you don't know, I'm guessing the people you're trying to recruit won't know. And that is a definite bummer and turnoff for them. So I'm just saying that. Oh, Tracy, 100% of our trainees fall into J40. Excellent. Good. Education, we absolutely do. Good. I'm just saying, if you have an objective for diversity, please make sure that's well known, that's transparent and publicly stated, and that you walk that walk, because that's a huge plus for you in recruiting and retention. I know if you're a company, and there are probably some employers on this call, are you struggling to find candidates to fill your position? With all these people moving around, are you struggling to find people with the skills you need to fill your positions? Are those people struggling to fill positions? Are you using recruiters or headhunters per se, particularly for the higher level positions? Are you trying to get diverse candidates, competent candidates? You're struggling. Do you turn to a headhunting firm to help you fill directors or managers or C-suite jobs?
So I just want to tell you, I heard from a company in Detroit.
Yeah.
And they had one of those earn as you learn.
Yes.
And they went out through the workforce boards, and they had, a few dozen positions for it, and they got 2,000 applications.
Wow. For how many
Yeah.
positions? Few dozen. So
Yeah, just a few
2,000.
dozen. And so then they had to recruit a little bit more. People were coming just for the money, for the training, which
Yeah.
means they wouldn't necessarily stay in the field or even stay for the whole training. So then they had to refine their recruitment. Yeah, but it was interesting, right? Oh, I didn't mean to.
Oops. I'll let you flip the slides up a little bit to catch up. So I don't want to beat a dead horse or whatever terrible analogy there is here, but I'm just saying, okay, yeah, back one more, go back. Yeah, here we go. So we're in the quick poll slide. If you are a company, last question, if you're, and your HR folks, your CEO, your C-suite is like, hey, HR, go find me diverse candidates. We need X number of people. Just go do that. Yeah. Hey, just make them appear. Do you have any kind of pipeline strategy or support strategy of training to deliver diverse, talented candidates to your company with an intentional growth pathway? So that, to Deb's point, you don't just put it out, hey, we're going to pay you to earn while you learn. You get people who come and go, but you have something that's thoughtful and looks at bringing people in, training them more, so that your candidates see a clear pathway.
Okay, so I just need to give you a heads up that we've got basically 13 minutes left.
All right, let's run through this real quick then.
Yeah.
Keep flipping Deb, go to the next slide. So again, this is for employers, workforce satisfaction. These are generic or rather general, but I think they reinforce what current workers want. And I mean current workers of all demographics and all ages. They want to feel relevant. They want to perform what they consider good work. They want to be able to learn and grow. They want mission-driven organizations that are diverse, that work with the community. They want something that makes all employees feel part of that group, bonded, and that stresses employee health and care for the whole employee. And something that they can leave feeling that they have contributed to the world. So next slide. I'm going to do, this is just a quickie on pay equity. You're like, how can we bring more people in? We can't just keep paying more and paying more and paying more to attract recruits. I think the key is transparency in your pay and the clear sense of fairness in your pay. I see that when I joined the company, I was paid X. The people who have been here a year longer, 2 years longer, 3 years longer are paid Y. I see my pathway to be paying Y. It's all clear and it's fair. And the manager isn't paid 20 times more than I am, even though the manager's been here 4 years and I've only been here 1 year. So there are fairness concerns about pay. Next slide, please.
And sometimes different definitions of fairness, right?
Exactly.
So sometimes you can't come to an agreement. I saw a whole solar company go under because the installers were like, you need to pay me way more. And so they left and started their own installation outsource kind of company. And both the installers went under and the solar company went under. So you can have those kinds of conflicts around that. And sometimes, like when I got out with my PhD in marketing, what they were paying PhDs in marketing that year was so much more than what they had been paying just a couple of years before, because the marketplace changes. So this can be fraught with,
I think that's
conflicts.
the thing about transparency. It's like if the CEO regularly communicates with all the employees, or if somebody's communicating with all employees, look, here's where we are. This is the market. This is what financing is costing us. This is what it's cost, This is what we can afford. You're seeing this in some of the negotiations now. SAG-AFTRA, UAW, you have to be really honest and clear on both sides, the worker side and the management side. And it's even better if there isn't a side. If you're in it together and people understand what the tensions are, what the stresses are, and that they feel that they're being compensated given their market stance, and their feeling of bondedness in the company. But it's a subtle thing. Next slide. To your point about recruiting from rural areas, most rural communities, especially, go ahead and hit it again, click it again, are in the less densely populated parts of our country. They're more, very generally, rural populations tend to be lower income. They tend to be less diverse racially, but this is not a given, and it can be diversity in different ways across the country. And we, the employers, and we, the trainers, have to recognize and work harder to recruit from rural areas, but workers are there looking at capacity, not experience. When you're training, you may have to provide more wraparound services, transportation, housing, food, to get communities from disadvantaged populations to be part of a training program and then move into the workforce. Remember, many of these communities are not diverse because of systemic racism going back hundreds of years. It's, so we're actively flying the plane while building it in terms of correcting DEI imbalances. And so just, I say, be gentle with ourselves and inspired in your DEI work when you're recruiting folks to join your training programs. Next slide. And so some of these things I've already mentioned: build your trust, work with the community, partner, and look at individuals' capacity, not their experience for talent. Oh, and Tracy points out how the wraparound services are also important in low-income urban communities, very much so. But rural people, you might have to, because it's not as dense, you may have to reach in and find them and communicate that with a trusted ally. Next slide. I think that's the last one.
Yeah, and retention is a whole other topic that somebody brought up, and a very important one. That has to do also with the culture of the company. And that's got to be on another day that we dig into the nuances of that. But very
absolutely. I think that's done. Oh, since I'm with Renewables Forward, suggest the link, which is live. When you get these slides, we have what we call the DEI playbook on our website. It's open, publicly available. It has many, many tips and resources to recruit, train, onboard, and create ERG groups, work to find diverse and inclusive workplaces. So thank you very much. I think that's my last slide, maybe, or I have a little goodbye slide or whatever. We should go to questions.
No, that's the last slide.
Great.
So here we go.
Okay.
If you want to get a hold of Chris, her email is in the bottom. It's just chris.nichols, Nichols, at renewablesforward.org. You will once again get these slides, but it sounds like, Zach, you're going to send maybe the emails out after this event as well. If you can't write down all of the emails for me and for Kelly and Angela, just email Kelly at Carey, Carey, at bpi.org. And what we want to hear from you is, are you interested in learning more about it, being an advisory board member, and also an outreach engagement partner, where you would use the materials that we'd be sharing, but you'll give us feedback, right? You'll give us some metrics. Like if you have a poster with a QR code, how many people clicked on the QR code? So that gives us some data. And then when you talk to the people in your organization that are taking the training, what did they say were the most impactful or useful, or they think would be the most successful recruitment approaches? And you give that back to us. So you'd be an outreach engagement partner by doing that, and you'd be doing that in the winter. Or if you're really ready to get going right now and you want to be a backup pilot site for us, if our pilots, something happens, then please let us know. And you would be doing this collaboration with us over the next couple months. Look, once again, I hope that we've met your needs. We didn't meet your needs for networking today, though. So if you all want to introduce yourself in the chat, and put in your contact information if you want to, so that way we can, you can connect with each other. You don't need to connect through us. There's also a LinkedIn group that's a part of this. You'll get that in the follow-up email, and then you can all talk to each other that way. Once again, what's got the tightest timeline, like today, right? And you don't have to say we want to be an engagement partner or we want to be an advisory committee member. just were interested, but also very much, hey, here's some additional stuff on messaging and channels that I didn't get a chance to say during the event. That's what you're going to want to share with us today if you can through that email to Carrie. Once again, I'll put it in. Hey, Kelly, can you put it in? Kelly Carey at bpi.org. I said Carrie, that was funny. And it's K Carey at bpi.org. Or Angela, can you put that in? That's going in just a second. There it is. K Carey at bpi.org. All right. I will now open it up. Anybody wants, I think we've answered all the questions in the question and answer. It's an interesting question, this one that Jim said about, you know, should we talk about why energy instead of IT or healthcare? And of course, I always want to talk about why energy because of climate. But depending on where you live, you know, they may be living in a world where they're getting all this disinformation and they think that climate change is a hoax. So you got to be sensitive to what people know and what their perspectives are on the world. I can't even believe I have to say that out loud, given what's going on with climate, but it's absolutely true. And I think all the other questions I answered. So it may mean, though, it might be kind of interesting to do kind of columns, why energy instead of IT or healthcare, because those are the other ones that they tend to look at going into. You might even want to do a column instead of the military too, because from these neighborhoods, we get a lot of people. I had a lot of students who would sign up for the military because they wanted to be a hero. And when I talked to them about being an energy hero, they saw that as an alternative choice. But, you know, I'm interested in your thoughts on that. Okay, and somebody said they really wanted posters. So we got a lot in the chat going on, which is great. Does anybody want to talk? You want to raise your hand? And
I have one thing I wanted to say real quick, which is someone mentioned earlier in the chat a deliverable, which I hadn't thought of. They said, I really want a green screen for meetings that fits in with this campaign. If you're sitting there thinking, you know what I really need? I need this particular kind of marketing tool. Pop it in the chat so that we know, okay?
yeah, or email us with it today, preferably. Yeah. Okay, great. I don't see, we got 1 minute left. Closing comments to me is just a great big appreciation to everybody at IREC, to Michelle. This is our first time using the Zoom, you know, polls. So I appreciate all of the work that you did with that. And you will get more information by follow-up email. I want to thank Dr. Hills. I want to thank Cynthia. And of course, our speakers, Chris, Angela, Kelly, the great work that you're doing. And if you've got any closing comments, now's the time to put them in the chat. Otherwise, we'll look forward to the next webinar coming up. Me too, Allie, me too. Please do. I love these introductions in the chat. That's really helpful to us, actually. And contact information, too, for each other. So I'll leave it open for another minute or so people can do that, okay? Great organizations here. I know a lot of them that you guys are describing. And also the geographic diversity, too. And Tracy, thanks for all the insightful comments today. Many of you gave very insightful comments, but I saw multiple ones from you.
Thank you so much, you guys, for being here. You're a very, very knowledgeable and engaged and passionate about the subject. I can tell by the comments in the chat and your poll answers. So we're honored with your time. Thank you so much for being here.
I think we're ready to roll. 10 more seconds. And then I
Thanks
think we're done.
everyone for joining. Look forward to having you on the next webinar in November, third Thursday of the month.
And Michelle, thanks in advance for sending the full results to us today. And then we'll get them out to all of you as well in a more usable format. Okay. Bye for now.